Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran and I'm a huge fan of exciting new builds, especially with patch 9.1. As we're getting more soul binds, as players getting to play with the brand new Covenant legendaries, new builds are coming out and new metas potentially are forming. In this video, I wanted to highlight 5 potential builds for patch 9.1. These are the builds that are either starting to get some sort of attention, maybe eventually becoming really popular choices, or are probably going to get more attention in the future as we get more soul binds, better gear in order to finally max out these builds. Not all these playstyles are the most popular or are meta just yet, but they are pretty viable and maybe in very specific scenarios could be extremely strong. So let's take a look at some of the fun, more creative builds of patch 9.1 that you and I could be playing very soon. The first pack on the list is going to be Windwalker Monks. These guys are fantastic for the first season of Shadowlands and are continuing to be really strong going into the next season. Monks are exceptionally strong, whether it is PvE, whether it is PvP. Be it dungeons, raids, or arenas, monks are pretty good. And it looks like Windwalkers are starting to transition slightly away from the Kyrian playstyle, which was kind of like the default playstyle going into Season 1 of Shadowlands, and looks like Necrolord is the Covenant that some people are swapping to. Already, we've seen monks as Necrolords this early on performing fantastic in AoE situations, probably some of the most AoE damage out there. And who doesn't want to be at the top of the damage charts for their Mythic Plus dungeons? The more damage you do, the faster that thing goes by, which can be pretty exciting. Even in a recent update to the Monk PvE guide, the one that most of you guys probably would have seen, they actually recommend thinking about going Night Fae or even Necrolord because of the ease of play and with how little difference there is between Covenants. Yes, you could play the Kyrian playstyle, which takes a little bit more skill and effort to play, whereas Night Fae and Necrolord are a little bit easier and get very similar results. So potentially, a lot more monks could be going over way of the Outer Rogue, going more towards the Necrolord playstyle. While we're on the topic of monks, let's take a look at Mistweaver, one of the most underrated healers in the game. Not many of you will say Mistweavers are good. Most of you say Disc Priests are insane, Holy Paladins are everywhere, Rested Shamans are pretty good. But Mistweaver is one of those healers that's actually quite decent, but most people just don't see it played in raids and dungeons or PvP for that matter. But potentially a Venthyr Mistweaver build is on the rise right now, and it's performing really well when it comes to healing, using the new Venthyr legendary. The Venthyr ability for monks basically summons these shadow monks, and they just keep summoning over and over on a 3-minute cooldown. These monks do a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, so they're kind of like a hybrid mechanic. They're not super interesting in terms of interactability. You kind of just set it and forget it Covenant ability, but the legendary allows you to reduce the cooldown of that ability with crits. Mistweaver monks stack quite a bit of crit, and they have a lot of little hits, a lot of little ticks of hots all over the place. And every one of those ticks, the small hits of heals, can crit, and all those crits count towards the cooldown reduction, and there's no limit in just how much you can reduce that CD. So if you want to reduce that cooldown by a ton, you could make this ability go from a 3-minute cooldown down to a 1, which could be interesting. Taking a big cooldown that's a 3-minute CD down to a 1 with the same effect and strength could be quite substantial, and it's looking pretty good for Mistweaver monks this early on. The Shadow Priest as a Necrolord isn't a playstyle you might have expected, but it is starting to pick up some traction. The Necrolord legendary summons up a skeletal mage that will do extra damage to a singular target. So while it's true this legendary is kind of limited towards more single target approach, it's actually getting some play in Mythic Pluses. The skeletal mage is someone using your Covenant ability, gains rampant damage as your allies contribute towards the damage of that target. So the skeletal mage almost instantly does their full damage, able to blast quite a bit, able to do damage from afar. And as a priest, normally you're not really like the summoner, warlocky caster type. I guess you can play the Mindbender playstyle where you can throw out Mindbender, he does a bit of damage. But now you can have the skeletal mage kind of just doing the damage for you. While decent in Mythic Pluses and has seen some high level play, also has seen quite a bit of single target output in the new raid, it also is getting a lot of favorability in PvP. It's just a mage that just does damage by himself. Shadow Priest generally like to dot up enemies and just put up a bit of pressure, get the big void eruptions rolling, Mindbender, but now you can have this extra caster slamming damage into enemies and kind of just mostly ignored. Most people don't really go to shut him down, and you can use it every so often. So for your overall damage output, it's actually proven to be quite good. This combined together with the fact that Shadow Priests are generally squishy, you are a clothy within PvP, Arms Warriors and Windwalker Monks just slice right through you because you are paper. Having Fleshcraft as an extra defensive is almost never a bad thing. And with some of the soul binds, it's actually a very decent choice for some of the Shadow Priests going forward and could be pretty good as well. Then we have Arms Warriors. These guys have rose to prominence when it comes to this brand new raid, Sanctum of Domination, and they're actually the pick for the raiding environment currently. Fury is still not out of the game completely. Arms is just performing a little bit better than we expected it. They did get a few buffs for Arms Warriors for a couple abilities, and Night Fae has been a pretty strong Covenant choice. But the Kyrian is on a swing up, and Kyrian is only going to grow stronger as we get more soul binds in the next few weeks. Kyrian Legendary allows your spear to last a little bit longer and enhance your critical strikes, which for an Arms Warrior with Warbreaker and Bladestorm trying to do the most amount of damage in a short window can be fantastic. Later down the line, Mechanical Soulbind is going to reduce the cooldown of that ability, so you can use Spear more often in dungeon packs. And right now, Warriors are actually starting to try it out not only in PvP, but in PvE. In Mythic Pluses, where it's really good, and in some raid situations where there is multiple enemies for you to tag. And it's actually proven itself quite good, quite strong, a lot of pressure and a lot of burst. That's also fairly easy to use with some utility of being able to root the target for quite a long amount of time. Overall, it's actually really strong to the point where some of the top warriors that are in Raid.io as of this moment are playing as Kyrian as arms and are getting really decent Raid.io, or I guess WoW Mythic Plus score is what we should be calling it. But it is getting some early success as of this moment. Finally, we have Paladins, and Paladins are mostly Kyrian, at least Retribution Paladins are, or Venthyr if you're Protection / Holy. But Night Fae. Can Night Fae be at some point any good? I decided to do a little bit of research since I do have a Night Fae Paladin, and the Night Fae Legendary allows you to enhance your different blessings. Night Fae ability basically brings up blessings very similar to the blessings you used to have like in Classic or TBC WoW. Blessings of Kings, Blessings of Might, but these ones are Blessings of the Seasons with a Night Fae theme. You have one blessing that gives a chance for enemies or allies to do more holy damage. You have one blessing with a bit of frost damage, you have blessing to increase the amount of healing you do, and blessing for cooldown reduction. The legendary empowers those blessings for a short moment to be 100% effective. So the blessing that does extra holy damage turns into, for 10 seconds, 80% chance to do 60% more damage as holy. I mean, during one of the pulls that we had in Turnasai, I gave it to my Retribution Paladin guildie, and he was able to do so much damage in AoE, and the Covenant ability itself, with a legendary, was actually his top damage for the Dungeon Trash Pack, which could be quite interesting. The amount of damage it applies could be maybe at some point okay, and I've seen some logs of Holy Paladins as well as Prot Pallies running these at like 20 plus keys as a Night Fae Paladin with that legendary. I should also add that in the Paladin Discord, which does a lot of the Paladin guides that you guys might have looked at, they actually say that Night Fae is a viable option compared to the Kyrian, which is still popular, but Venthyr and Night Fae are apparently kind of doable. Even the Sims suggest that they might be okay, even though Sims aren't perfect for when it comes to different PvE situations. So the numbers in Sims are kind of sort of there. The Paladin Discord, which does a lot of the testing and a lot of the research, also doesn't say it's completely terrible either. So maybe it's not completely a trash can option for some players out there. Who knows? But anyway, guys, it's going to be my 5 builds for class Covenant combos that are potentially good at some point in patch 9.1. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about these builds. Do you think they have any potential to actually become the strongest builds, the metas at some point? Or do you think there's another build that I just didn't think of that's actually gaining popularity that you thought I should have covered in this video? Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.